containing ships divided with separately.
Last day, eh?
Yes.
Interesting week.
Yeah. In the end of the day, can we try to like a bit of like hard water that is so in there?
In the last day, you can try whatever you feel like. It's last day. You can go each one on one bridge and do whatever you feel like. Okay, outside the course. Okay, once again, morning. Today is last day. All day I will be there with you. You can see. We'll start in the morning. We'll address the two concerns of any ship in the world. There is. We close this door. As you may know, this is also a problem with the ongoing political scenarios around the world. Security. Yes. So you being out there at sea after the incident of 9/11, everybody knows the concern for security of ship was heightened. It was always there. It was there in the forms of people feeling unsafe on ships because of piracy attacks. But then it got heightened to another level, like ships, especially tankers, an LNG, LPG tanker or an oil tanker. It can be used as some sort of a device in itself to create problems. Yes. Now we don't need to talk about what kind of problems can be created. Yeah, human mind is quite innovative. So this need for setting up a convention, yes, or to regulate this security framework of ships around the world, yeah, bring it up to a common level playing field for everybody was required. Hence came the ISPS code. Yeah, heard about this? International Ship and Port Facility Security Code, which takes care of the security concerns for the ship and for the terminal. Yeah. So we'll watch a small training video. Again, you watch it, I'll pause it, talk about it. And then everything follows with a certification as well. So security, again, it was incorporated in SOLAS because your life, safety of life, you know, it is associated with your security. Yeah. So every ship now has to comply with this. Every port has to comply. Every port, your ship is supposed to have a security plan, a ship security plan. A port is supposed to have a port security plan. A ship is supposed to have a security officer. Port is supposed to have a port security officer, PSO. Yeah, port facility security officer, PFSO. What are they going to do? They are going to take measures. They are going to make sure that ISPS code is complied, the port security plan is complied, the ship security plan is complied. When a ship is coming into a port, there is some sort of a cooperation between the two for the benefit of it. If something goes wrong on the ship, it will affect the terminal as well. Something goes wrong on the terminal, it will affect the ship as well. So both have to agree and both have to be on the same level playing field. This then further leads to documentation. Yeah, everything that you do nowadays has to be documented. Proof. So comes into picture as something called declaration of security. You are declaring. What are you declaring? Your ship name, your ship type. What is your security level? Yeah. What is the port security level? So that then both can match their security levels and come onto a level playing field while the ship is in the port. They will explain to you there are three. Then talking about security levels were decided for the ship security levels. Level 1, it was called maritime security levels. Level 1, level 2, level 3, based on the situation. Yes. So level 1 is all the time it is level 1. Normal means level 1. You are going to follow certain minimum standards all the time. Yes. Level 2 means heightened level. Level 3 means there is an imminent risk is there. Something can go wrong. So we will see the video and you will see more of it. Then we will talk a little bit about piracy concerns as well, because now a lot of LNG trade is happening from Persian Gulf. Ships are loading from places like Qatar, Ras Laffan. Yeah, one of the biggest LNG loading terminals right now in the world. Yeah, you know Qatar? So they are the biggest, one of the biggest LNG producing and LNG terminal in the world. Something for oil there is Ras Tanura, and now for gas there is Ras Laffan. Huge facility. So continuous ships are loading LNG one after the other. Big consignments of LNG. 200,000 CBM ships, 150,000 CBM ships are loading one after the other every day, and they are coming out of the Persian Gulf, going through the Red Sea, yeah, crossing the Suez, going into the Mediterranean and coming to Europe, or going towards the US or other places. And you know this area is a big high-risk area, piracy problems because of Somalia. We will talk about that as well. That is another issue. Yes. In the meantime, let's first talk about ISPS.
Security on and off ship should always be a concern. In today's world, you should be suspicious of anyone or anything. Everyone should be on their guard, even with a simple thing like being asked to take a package, no matter how innocent it may appear. But what do you do when a serious security problem arises? And how do you deal with these issues with the least possible risk to everyone? Improve your awareness of security matters on board your ship. Watching this video will help you to understand the role of the ship security officer, appreciate the importance of being alert, know the correct procedures in the event of a threat, use this knowledge on board your own ship. In all, it will help you to understand shipboard security. Shipping is vital to the world economy. It is an effective, efficient, and flexible form of transport, whether it's carrying cargo or people. But we also have to be realistic. Shipping today can face many threats, and any of these could affect you, your colleagues, and your ship.
The events of September 11th certainly did cross our minds with regard to maritime, the whole shipping community. What we want to do is improve security, preserve mobility, so that we can preserve our vulnerable maritime commerce for years to come.
A lot of people were thinking that ship industry was exempted from any terrorist attack, and it was not at all the same situation if you compare, for instance, with air transport. At the same time, I must say that the European Union was already thinking about different measures and shipping security.
We have found through a Seaport Security Commission in our country and the United States that our ports are very vulnerable, and we all recognize just how valuable shipping is to not only us in the United States, but to all our trading partners around the world.
The IMO this time has produced mandatory legislation which is going to be applied not only to passenger ships, but to all ships over 500 tons in international waters and the ports which deal with them. So it is a seismic change in responsibility for ships and ports.
Quickly realised that the marine that were very vulnerable and exposed to threats from terrorist organisations because of the nature of the trade in which we engage. And the measures which we immediately took were an enhanced state of vigilance on ships and in particular areas.
The threats that pop out to me are using the vessel as a weapon. For one instance, it can be used to be a USS Cole type of a vehicle, to be a rogue vessel that could be run into another vessel, a naval vessel, or a nuclear facility, or a bridge abutment. We have to be mindful of the vessel as a weapon, just by itself. Some of the vessels carry cargoes that might be attractive to be used as weapons if their cargo were detonated. Just think of the consequences of detonating one of those in a downtown area in a major port in the United States. Vessels could be used to generate income for terrorist organizations, either through the drug business, by which many of them earn their income, or just by what might look like legitimate business, but in fact isn't, moving explosives or moving people to different parts of the world for their terrorist business. I think the threat is ever present, and for us not to do something to mitigate that threat would be unconscionable.
Someone on board your ship has been nominated as the ship security officer, with responsibility for implementing the ship security plan. The ship security officer and all crew members must follow specific industry rules and regulations. These are set out in the ISPS code, which has been agreed at the IMO under an amendment to the SOLAS Convention.
Yes. Okay, right, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Marcy, stowaways.
So every ship must have a ship security plan, which must be understood and followed by every member of the crew. So amongst other things, the ship security officer is responsible for assessing threats and taking appropriate precautions, organising and monitoring routine measures and regular security inspections, developing contingency plans, coordinating duties with the crew, communicating and liaising with the shore.
When the ship security team, including myself, the department, sees that there is a risk prior to entering an area and we decide on the measures which we will take, the security officer would see that they're actually carried out. He would give specific instructions to the crew as to what measures were to be taken, if these were to be physical protection measures or just lectures concerning the extra state of vigilance, or they should be aware of any perceived threat.
Take a detailed look at your ship. If you were going to attack it, where do you think it would be easy? Discuss this with the ship security officer. Thinking about potential threats, particularly from terrorists, will help you to be more vigilant about security measures. A major part of the ship security officer's role is to regulate the access to the ship, ensuring that lighting, communication and alarm systems are satisfactory, and adjusting surveillance and monitoring as necessary.
Radar surveillance on low ranges to detect small craft coming close to the ship, possibly use our searchlights to scan water areas, consider using infrared binoculars, which our ships do carry, and is an additional method of detecting people trying to gain illegal access to the ship.
So we have seen two scenarios. You've experienced it yourself. Where can a ship be most of the time? At sea. So when you are sailing, you are making way through the water. Quite difficult for someone to board you, unless there is a piracy attack. They use ladders. That's a different situation altogether. When are you most vulnerable? When you are in port. But again, when you are in port, either you are at anchor or you are alongside. It's one of the two situations. When you are at anchor, how can someone board you? Two ways. Yeah, by your pilot ladder or your gangway. If it is left unsecure, a lot of time that has happened. Your gangway is left unsecure or your pilot ladder has been rigged. People forgot to rig it back up. People can board from there very easily. People can board from an anchor chain. Yes. So your hose pipe generally is now covered with steel plates. That too can be broken. Again, at anchorage, somebody could board you with ropes and ladders again if they bring their own. So, what is required there? Vigilance is required when you know that all these places it can be boarded. Continuous monitoring is required. Ships are now being installed with CCTV cameras. Yeah, newer ships have CCTV cameras in the forward parts, midship parts, stern parts. Then that can be that is generally from one point of station they can be seen. Like you have this in this building. You have so many cameras, and at the entrance, see on your way out, all can be monitored. You have limited number of people on the ship. You do not have hundreds of people on a ship all the time. So these limited number of people can only be given limited number of duties because they also have to comply with the work hours and the rest hours. Because the ship's main job is not just security, is it? The main job is to transport goods from point A to point B, load these goods, discharge these goods. So these people, whatever number of people are provided to you on the ship, their duties are mainly concerned with an additional duty. Other tools are being provided. When you are in port, somebody boarding from. You have one point of access control is your gangway. Yes, that is where people board from. Or they can board you from a shore side as well. Now, from a sea side as well. If they bring you a small craft and they put a ladder or a rope, they can come on board. So again, continuous vigilance is required in the port as well. That is what they are talking about. Yes. And later on, I'll show you a video about access control. What kind of an access control has to be maintained on the ship, so that you make sure that no unidentified or unwanted person boards your vessel. Yes. Generally, every ship nowadays is being provided with a list of people that can actually are expected to board your vessel. So you already know who is going to visit your ship in advance. Problem arises when somebody is there on board without he being there on the visitor list. Yeah, that is when high vigilance is brought. Anyhow, if somebody is wanting to be on your ship to create disruption or for any other purpose, he is not going to put his name on the visitor list anyhow. Yes, maybe he can just sneak in, pretend to be someone he is not, and then, excuse me. That is the concern. Let's continue working some more.
Attacks on shipping have increased over the last 10 years, both at sea and in port. Many robbers are petty criminals, but organized crime is also a threat. The most popular waters for piracy are around Asia, Africa, and South America. Small ships and slow-steaming ships with low freeboard are especially vulnerable. Although container ships steaming at full speed have also been boarded. It's vital to control visitors' access to the ship. One way to prevent unauthorized access while in port is to keep gangways or stern ramps hoisted when not in use. If possible, crew members should be assigned to gangway watch and provided with a system for keeping a tally of all those allowed on board, such as stevedores. A closed-circuit TV system trained on the gangway is another option for monitoring access. They are also ideal in the vulnerable and high-security areas of the ship, where access needs to be controlled. There are special arrangements in place for foreign crews visiting the United States, and you should check with your company superintendent or stateside agent for the latest information. Seafarers judged to be a security risk may be fingerprinted and checked against known criminals and terrorists. It's vital to bear in mind that all visitors must identify themselves, even those in suits, as terrorists don't always wear balaclavas and carry Kalashnikovs. In one recent incident, a smart gang who spoke perfect English went on board several ships, claiming to be on owner's business. They then robbed the ships using violence. Simply questioning them at the point of access and checking for weapons could have deterred them.
What we think in the European Commission is that we must now have the culture of fighting the terrorism and thinking more about security, not only at national, regional level or port level, but also at the European level and namely also at the world level. That's why we favor any multilateral approach developed in the International Maritime Organization.
The ship security plan should ensure that you know precisely what to do when a security emergency arises. The plan contains measures to counter threats such as terrorism, piracy, stowaways, and suspect packages or devices. If stowaways are found after sailing, the police, port authorities, and the P&I Club must be informed, as well as the company security officer.
This is not the only problem that we were talking about earlier, piracy or something. Another been there for the ships are going from one country, and if your ship's details of your voyage and trading patterns are divulged, some people who are not concerned with your ship, what they can do then is they can board your vessel and use it as some sort of a free means of transporting from one country to the other country. Immigration problem. Yeah. So that is another concern, because at the end of the day, then who is liable? The ship is liable. You get a stowaway on your ship. Yeah, he is trying to escape from one country and trying to go to the other country. He might be a normal citizen. He might not be a criminal. But then his safety then again becomes the problem of the ship or the ship owner. You cannot throw him overboard. You cannot keep him on the ship. You cannot do anything. Some countries might not accept him. They say, no, we are not going to take him. Then what happens? Then it becomes a long drawn battle for where can he be offboarded from the vessel. Sometimes you can only offboard him in his own country. So you don't know how long it's going to take for you to go back to that country. So you're going to keep him on a ship all the time. He is not trained to be on a ship. He's an uncertified person on the ship. You cannot use him on the ship to even do anything else. Yeah? That is another concern. So basically, again, that is what is done in the ship security plan. This has been dealt with. Every time a ship departs a port, all the ship people, before just prior departure, go and search for the spaces on a ship where you might think that someone could hide. Yeah, because they are not going to sit around and hide in the plain sight. What they're going to do is they're going to sit somewhere in a remote corner on the ship. A ship is a very big place, and then later on, once they know that the ship is out there at sea, they might come out. Yes. So that is what.
If there's more than one, they should be separated and taken to secure quarters with, if possible, 2 crew members. Keep sight of them at all times, even when they go to the toilet. Search the area for any belongings or documents. You can search their clothes, but do not use force. Take an inventory of anything you find and seal the items in a plastic bag. Each stowaway should be interviewed separately by the master, ideally photographed. Stowaways have basic rights, and these are acknowledged by the IMO and the United Nations. These include food and water, a life jacket, and reasonable accommodation. In the event of an attack, it may prove difficult, but try to keep calm.
6 month journey, you don't need to think about your land.
If possible, and there's no danger, transmit a security alert. Don't resist. Do exactly as they say.
Now they were talking about transmitting a security alert. More and more ships now are fitted with a ship security alarm system. Aware of it or not now. Basically a means of letting your company flag state know by means of just pressing a button that your ship is now under a security threat or security of the ship has been breached. You need assistance. Yes. Now this is every ship has its own system of doing it by different satellite equipment. But it is done in a very passive way. Not going to make a lot of sounds, alarms, and because it is done in a very passive way. So these are generally just known to the ship's person. This kind of information is not to be divulged to anybody. So what it is that you just quietly go and press the button. Yes, somewhere on the bridge or somewhere in some master's cabin or chief engineer placed known to the ship security officer on the ship. What is the location of these security buttons? You in case need to press one if your ship security has finally been breached. The ship security plan only does not concern with stopping people from coming on board. Yes, it also has a contingency if somebody has already come on board. Then what do you do?
Understand that the more rapport you have with the terrorists, the less likely you or any others will come to harm.
We are not, seafarers, people who work on a ship are not trained military personnel. Okay? We are not there to fight war for anybody. So, if in case security is breached, the only option left is you raise a security alarm if that is possible. Then cooperate with them. Yes, we are not going to fight them, we are only going to cooperate with them. We have no left with no other option. Somebody is there with a gun on your head, you better cooperate with them. Yes? And that cannot be held against him.
If you find a suspicious device, inform the ship security officer of its location. Don't move the device away from people. Move people away from the device and cordon off the area. If a device is found while you're sailing, follow the same procedure and activate your blast route planning.
Yeah, I'm looking at today's page.
Activate the alert button if one is fitted to your vessel.
Okay, got it off.
Make sure that the firefighting equipment is ready for use.
Now, what is the worst case scenario if something is found hidden on your ship? Be a bomb. What you are going to do about it? Are you going to go and start diffusing it? No. Are you going to move it and throw it into the sea? Next thing you know, you touch it, it goes off. So all you can do about it is just move away from there. Do not use any radio devices around it because radio devices can trigger. This is designed in that way. Quietly move away from there. Use fixed lines of communication as intercom and stuff. Tell the ship security officer about it. And then you can follow the procedure as is mentioned in your ship security plan. If you are in a port, then of course you will be evacuating the vessel. The port authorities will come on board and they'll try to make the best of the situation. If you are already out there at sea, too late. All you can do is then follow the instructions from your company security officer. Yes, you can inform your DPA and whichever countries for territorial waters or waters that closest that are to you. You can inform them that this is what has happened. wait for help. Yes?
If a bomb explodes without warning on or near the ship, the master should ensure watertight integrity and stability. Arrange first aid if necessary. Take firefighting precautions and inform the company, as well as local port authorities making distress calls. If the ship is in port, inquiries from the press or next of kin will need to be handled.
Depending on the perceived level of threat, we would possibly consider taking some additional physical protection areas, i.e. possibly fitting barbed wire to some of the companionways which gain access to the bridge to slow down or impede the access of tourists to the bridge area.
The ship security officer should liaise very closely with their company security officer, and when entering port, with the port security officer. They may also have to liaise with an enforcement agency.
The company security officer clearly has to ensure that all the procedures and systems are in place to protect the fleet. That will start with doing scenario planning and risk assessment of what the threats to the company may be. And then, as with any other emergency planning, ensuring that all the procedures to deal with those threats are in place, through to regular exercising and testing of the arrangements. The other role of the company security officer can't really be undertaken by the ship security officer is to look at security in ports where the ships trade, because clearly the security of a port is as important to the security of the vessels berthing there as security on board the vessels themselves.
There has to be a system for checking what is bringing or what they're loading, and there has to be a system of denial to restricted areas. If that is organized properly, it need not be expensive, and it need not be too time-consuming.
As with every ship, each port and terminal should have its own security precautions in place. At specialized ports, like oil, gas, and chemical terminals, these measures may be very sophisticated. Basic security precautions are similar to those on board vessels. These include means of controlling access, such as barriers and perimeter fencing, security patrols, lighting and alarm systems, methods for identifying and searching people, vehicles, and baggage. The ship security officer must be familiar with the port security requirements and know what is expected, both quayside and waterside. However, good port security is no substitute for effective shipboard controls. Security has to be thought about throughout the journey, from loading cargo to berthing in port at your destination. The ship's officers and crew should all know the duties that have been allocated to them in the ship security plan. This plan also helps to define, implement, monitor, and improve procedures. Make sure you are completely familiar with the layout of the ship, including access points, accommodation spaces, safe areas, emergency and standby equipment, lighting and alarm systems, internal and ship-to-shore communication systems. The hijack is threaten to blow up themselves and the hostages. Political events and situations are beyond the control of a shipping company, and these situations can change rapidly, altering the level of threat during a voyage.
The impact of terrorist attacks is so big in terms not only of money but also human life and thusly seafarers that it's better to try and protect ourselves rather than to discover the results of the lack of security.
Okay, we're shortly coming into an open here, and we've reason to believe that there's an increased threat to the ship. So we're going to up the...
The ISPS code specifies 3 levels of security to cope with different levels of perceived threat. The level to be applied will be influenced by factors such as: is there any political turmoil or armed conflict? Have other ships been attacked? Are there many refugees in the area? Have stowaways or drug smuggling been a regular problem? Is the ship carrying valuable or hazardous cargo? What matters is knowing what action to take when threat levels are increasing. Security level 1. This is the normal level, with minimum appropriate security measures being maintained at all times. Access on and off the vessel controlled, with all persons identified, and the ship's crew and passengers not allowed to disembark without authority. Access to sensitive areas of the vessel limited. The handling of cargo and stores witnessed. Spot checks on access point controls. Regular security patrols. The ship security officer to contact the port security officer at each port of call. Security level 2. This is a heightened level, which requires additional protective measures for a time because there is more risk of incident. Check all deliveries closely, be it cargo or stores. Particular grounds for suspicion may require that a container is opened and the contents inspected. Visitors may be searched and escorted. Carry out random bomb searches. In port, carry out hull inspections from quay and waterside. The crew to be extra vigilant and increase the frequency of patrols. Patrols to be stepped up, especially in port. Access of all visitors is strictly controlled, especially to the bridge and engine room. Rig overside lighting. Security level 3 is termed exceptional. This requires further security measures for a limited time when an incident is probable or imminent. All spaces, including off-duty crew lockers, to be searched. All stores and deliveries checked prior to acceptance.
Gentlemen, the ship now is approaching theoretical waters.
Crew briefed on seriousness of the situation and requirement for vigilance. Patrols of the vessel to be intensified if possible, possibly suspending embarkation and disembarkation, halting cargo operations and the delivery of stores. At security level 3, the port state control authorities may take control of the situation. The measures applying to your vessel for the 3 different levels of security are set out in the ship's security plan. They are there for your protection and can help deter those with criminal intent. It is essential that details of the plan itself are restricted to those who need to know. Control the flow of information. Strict knowledge of the cargo to as few people as possible. Routine defensive measures include lock internal and external hatches, close hawse pipe covers. If time allows, open and inspect unsealed containers, especially those with soft tops. Report any suspicious activity to the ship security officer.
Increasing the level of surveillance, vigilance during the hours of darkness by posting additional lookouts and having that more frequent surveillance of radar or continuous surveillance of radar on low ranges at night to detect the approach of small craft to the vessel during the hours of darkness.
In areas of high risk of piracy, it may be advisable to anchor offshore during the day or overnight, or to sail continuously near the port. A key measure against both stowaways and terrorists intent on sabotage is thorough searches of the ship prior to sailing. These may be time-consuming, but in high-risk ports they can be very effective in safeguarding your vessel. These should be documented so that those searching a specific area know precisely where and what to look for. This information can be put on a checklist issued to the searchers. Remember that searches aren't over until they're over. Don't abandon a search once stowaways or suspicious items have been discovered. There could be more.
If we don't make change, we'll leave ourselves much too vulnerable to our investment in this business. And I respect the important role that all of these identified people, such as ship security officers, play. And I hope that they will take that to heart, will accept the responsibilities, will participate in the development of the plan and the development of the assessment of their vessels and the ports in which they serve, and that they will take on the responsibility of training their shipmates and at least making them aware of some of the things that will help improve security and make our shipping commerce world that much less vulnerable to intervention by terrorists.
This is the most important access point on the ship to gangway.
Security training is important to ensure that everyone knows their role in both routine and emergency procedures, so that the plan is effective. Drills should be carried out every 3 months, as specified in the ISIS code, or more frequently where necessary. Preparation is important. Taking part in drills will raise awareness and encourage the taking of responsibility. There are 2 types of drill with which you should be familiar. Searches for stowaways and suspect devices, and boarding attacks by criminals. The notes from the last drill should be reviewed, so as to identify what went well, but also what needs to be worked on. A member of the crew could play the part of a stowaway, but the ship security officer must know where they intend to hide themselves. Safety comes first. The crew taking part in the drill should clearly understand its purpose. They should know the potential dangers involved and the safety precautions they should take. After the drill, those who took part should be able to say how they thought it went.
Like all drills on the ship, it trains the crew how to react in a particular emergency. With most threats from terrorism or piracy, the actual attack, if it's detected early enough by the vigilance of the crew of the ship, can be limited or even completely gated to force the terrorists to give up because they've been seen. Secrecy is the most important weapon from the element of surprise. If that's foiled by the crew being vigilant, can escape their attentions and perhaps not be the victim of their attack.
Now, this needs to be a global solution because it not only affected our country, it affected all of our trading partners. And in fact, nationals from about 90 countries died that day.
Today, security in our everyday lives is becoming ever more important. And security at sea is no different. Being alert at all times is an important part of what you can do to improve shipboard security. More information can be found.
We have now got a good idea about security on the 3 levels. Come back, we'll discuss about 5th and 4th matters of safety. Yeah. So we have to make a balance between security and safety. Safety is considered relating to operation. Okay. So small break. Stop recording. And then we will talk about safety.